Good morning. The day after Thanksgiving. It's Friday. It's the 24th of November. I think it's about 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit later. I light the candle in the morning rather than put the light on. It's a bit softer and it allows that beautiful morning light to be seen. So, just go outside. I've got my coffee. It's quite cold this morning. Let me just close this door a little bit. That's it. In fact, there was a frost overnight. So I'm just stepping out to have a look to see where the frost has landed. Still feels nice and warm inside the cottage. Ah yeah, you can see the frost up there on the roof. And a little bit up there on the tin roof of the lodge. And the little bit of water in the wheelbarrow has frozen. So it has been quite cold. I think so far this year there's probably been 3, maybe 4 frosts. It hasn't been too cold yet. Winter here is November, December and January, although sometimes it can be much colder in February and even in March because we get winds. And where you get the wind chill factor, that's when the real cold happens. So you can hear all the birds out here. There's a little bit of frost there on the car. Now when I come back yesterday it was dark, and so I put lots and lots of bird food, you know that grain? It's like mixed grain, it's got sunflower seeds and stuff in it. Oh, there's a little robin over there on the bird table. William Blake wrote some immortal lines about the robin. He said, a robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. I've often thought that about caging birds. So you can hear there's lots of birds around. I think the word has spread amongst the bird population that there's not just sanctuary here at Bealtaine Cottage, but there's food and shelter. So food and habitat. And in return, I get to see all this life and I get to hear all the beautiful songs and the calling. And it makes Bealtaine Cottage magical. This is sort of a frosty mist over the mountains. And a lovely sort of a rosy glow over there in the sky. Don't know if the camera's picking it up. Probably not. Nice smell of wood smoke coming from the chimney up there. Now, when I was talking about the sheep's wool and using sheep's wool in the garden, which I've done now these past 14 years, someone commented that it was it didn't rot down, it didn't biodegrade. I must have magical sheep's wool then, because it does, and it does quite fast as well. Within inside a year, it's biodegraded. It's disappeared into the earth. Whatever I talk about in relation to the earth here and what I've been doing over 14 years is not anecdotal. I'm not reading it from textbooks, and I'm not taking it up from what other people say. It is completely and utterly from my own experience. And I think that's where what I've done really becomes valuable, because I am writing and speaking and filming what I experience here. And so it puts a new, look at the little robins up there on the ridge tiles. It puts new scientific data out there. And that's why I've shared it so freely. I could easily have turned all my experiences here into online permaculture programs that you have to pay for. You don't have to pay for anything here. It's all free. Not even an advertisement. It's all free. So all the blogs I've written, and there's an absolute Pandora's box of information out there on the net. You don't really know what you're getting, but everything that I've written here on my website, which again has no advertising, and it's all there, and by me paying for that website on an annual basis, it's €300 a year I pay annually to keep that website up there, because of the huge amount of photographic evidence up there, because that's what you pay for, because it takes up a massive amount of space. And there's, I don't know, 15, 16, maybe 17,000 photographs up there now. Impossible to start counting them now at this point. But it's all there, and it's all valuable information. And it's all free. And I know it's being used, and I know it's been taken up and being used, because quite often I read information coming from other websites which has initially come from this one. And the same goes with the YouTube channel. It's completely free. There's no advertising. There's no paywall. Everything's up there. And everything that I experiment with, learn about, experience here at Bealtaine, it goes up there in one form or another. And I have no problem with anyone using any of it. That's what good information is for. It's for sharing. And I was a teacher in my previous life, and sharing information and knowledge comes naturally to me. In fact, I'm quite radical in that way. I don't think that education should cost a penny. I think it should be funded through central government. I'm more than happy to pay taxes for that. And it should be for life. Anyone who wants to go back to school, go back to college, go to university, it should be absolutely free. And that's what I practice here. I practice what I preach. So there's no charge. Because after all, if you believe in something, then it's important to share it. And one should be happy to share it. It's an absolutely beautiful morning. I mean, it really is beautiful. I think we'll take a little walk down through some of the woodland. Jack! Come on. Come on, let's go. We're going through this way. And as I've said before about putting out these videos and putting out blogs on the website, it's about showing anyone who's interested a model of how to live, not just sustainably, but in a regenerative way. And it's not something which is static. I haven't reached the kind of ultimate goal in that. It's an ongoing process. It's a learning process. And as I learn, I share. And it's about what works and sometimes what doesn't work. Mostly what I do here and what I've done here works. And of course the proof of anything is always in the visual, when you can see it for yourself. And of course, not just see it for yourself, but hear it for yourself. Smell it for yourself. I mean, the air is very crisp and clear, and there's woody smells and earth smells, with just the occasional waft of fresh coffee. Let's just show you up here, because this used to be a little path down through the fairy wood. Oh, look at that, a little primrose. A little primrose just peeking out, because it's so sheltered in here. It's not unusual to see little primroses, you know, just the odd little one coming through. So what's been happening here in this part of the fairy wood is that there's a lot of now I'm doing this one-handedly. I've got coffee in one hand and the camera in the other, so I'll just explain. Lots of ivy there. Well, that's all over a tree trunk that's sort of beginning to gently fall over. Lots of seeds on that ivy. I'm just going to leave that in place. That's food and shelter. These long branches that you see, this is goat willow. So this is a pioneer tree. It doesn't live that long, but it does prepare the ground, if allowed. It does prepare the ground for other trees, hardwood trees. Well, not necessarily hardwood, but more long-living trees. For example, this little tree beside it is an ash. The ash will live to 2,500 years, if managed properly. The little pioneer tree here, the little goat willow, 60 years max. Although you can keep coppicing that and pollarding that and maybe get it to live a bit longer. So what's happening now? You can see the goat willow beginning to fall over, and what's coming up around it, because of course all the animals have been taken off, all the grazing animals have been taken off the land here this past 14 years. So we have self-seeded and very healthy ash. And over there's a much bigger ash. You can just see that there, look. And it's going into a very interesting kind of a twisted shape, because the goat willow is falling very gently on the top of it. Now, goat willow doesn't snap and fall over. It falls slowly. Sometimes it takes years for the goat willow to fall. Now, there's another ash tree there. You see, I'm just pointing. It's just centre picture. And that again is growing in a very interesting shape. It's coming out and kind of up and curved round. So this little fairy wood is becoming an ash wood. And if I look back down here, you can see, just again, central picture, lots of ash trees there, all sprouting up. Some of them I've planted, the older ones I've actually planted in there, and some of them are seeded, self-seeded. So there's a real health kind of growing here. Lots of ferns in there as well. There's one or two green beech that I've planted in there, because they do thrive as well. Gosh, look, there's another little ash tree. Got some incredible little trees growing here. Lots of hawthorn as well that's coming up. Lots of holly coming up. And these are the self-seeded ones. So eventually, these little drains that I dug out, you can see the little drain down there? All these little drains that I dug out by hand years ago, I will eventually be able to fill those back in, because as the tree roots go down, they absorb all the water, and they also provide drainage channels. The roots themselves become drainage channels for water. So it's an ongoing project, which is why it's called the Bealtaine Project, and it's a model that I have grown intuitively. I mean, I'm a great book reader. Yes, I'll read lots and lots of books and get lots of information. But much of what I do here is very intuitive, and I try to keep it that way, because I think what I'm doing subconsciously is I'm absorbing a lot of information from Mother Earth just by walking the land continually, which is so important to do. So I'm absorbing information, I'm absorbing, everything that I'm looking at, my mind's taking in, my subconscious mind is thinking about it, and when it comes then to caretaking this land and helping the regenerative process, a lot of what I do is called loosely intuitive, but of course it's coming from an incredible bank of information that my mind is continually taking in and expanding. So And again, the paths begin to shape themselves, because obviously I'm not going to take down that little holly tree there. I'm going to work the path around it so the paths become more curved and more natural in that way. And here's the little spring well, and not as much as a ripple on it. And then you look down and you see the water flowing from it. Now here's a little white thorn which has sprung up, and again the path, it may come that the path on this particular part will close up because of the white thorn, but so be it. The trees and what they want to do take precedence. Same with this one. There's a beautiful ash tree there which is thriving, and a little bit of Leicester famosa beside it. So I may have to rework a path around all that. Now I'm not going to go down very far, so what I'll do is I'll just cross the ditch here, and beautiful ferns in there. I love the way the earth has transformed herself from over-chemicalised rushy grass into this incredible woodland floor, which looks as though it's been here forever and a day. And as you know, and as all the photographic evidence shows, it hasn't. So this is an ongoing project, and that's what I would say to anyone who would question what I spoke about the other day in the polytunnel about using the sheep's wool, and I think the commentator basically said, well, look, it doesn't rot down. And here's me saying, it does rot down. Unless, of course, it's magical sheep's wool. So maybe we'll call it magical Beltana, because things happen here that apparently shouldn't happen and is not the way of the world. But it is so important to relate to your own experience and to gain as much experience as possible. And it's only by engaging with the earth and the land herself that you will ever become knowledgeable. Because if we don't have a knowledge of the earth, then whatever knowledge we possess is meaningless. We're living with this sentient being. We're living with her. If we don't know about her, then what's the use of any other knowledge? So today's Friday. It's an absolutely beautiful day. I feel quite high just even saying that, because walking amongst trees with such a beautifully clear sky above me and that chilly nip in the air, which tells me that the season is in place, it gives me such a delight. There's my neighbour leaving next door, taking her little boy to nursery. All the signs of the morning. It's a little spot I rarely bring you to. It's down this little path here that I don't often walk. Now birch trees, they're fantastic pioneer trees. And what I want to make this morning, so I might just make another video, or what I might do is put out a little blog. Not too sure yet, but I want to cut some branches off the birch trees, because I've got birch trees everywhere, and make a little twig wreath. My eldest daughter got me a little what's it called? Like a little pack of LED fairy lights operated on battery last year. I never did anything with them, and I just thought to myself last night, wouldn't it be lovely just to have a little twig wreath, very, very simple, and put these little fairy lights through it. Just to have it that simple. So this is what I'm going to do this morning. Now I'm taking my eldest daughter down to Sligo today. She's got an appointment. So I'm going to be taking her down there, probably leaving around midday or something like that. So I have the morning anyway to do this. It shouldn't take me longer than about an hour in total, between cutting the birch and making the little wreath. Come on, Jack. I'll just show you the pond. But I think you'll agree with me, it's a beautiful morning. I hope you all had a good day yesterday. Those of you in America, I hope you all had a lovely Thanksgiving. Reading through the comments, some beautiful comments. Lovely to read. Absolutely. Jack, come up this way. So, just walk back up. I love it actually when the trees lose their leaves, because you can see deep into the woodland. And it really does become very magical. You see little things that stone with a little rhinestone on top. Most of the year that's not visible. And then winter happens and the landscape opens up. And then you get the skeletal remains of the wild angelica. Isn't that beautiful? Now I noticed a very interesting thing yesterday. You know, I've got these sacks of seaweed up at the top of the driveway there, just to the right of the she shed. Well, I noticed Jack was sort of foraging on the ground around those sacks, and I looked. He was eating something. Anyway, the first time I seen it, I didn't give it much attention. I thought it was just a little bit of couch grass that he eats for his digestive system, you know, for bringing up bile. And yesterday morning, I looked, because he was at it again, and I realised what he was eating. He was eating some little bits of seaweed that the birds had pulled out. So isn't that interesting? Because of course dogs, and I'm not talking about pedigree dogs, because they have an awful lot of their instinct bred out of them. But collies especially are very instinctive, because they're working dogs and they're used to being outside and being kind of semi-wild, you know.